It's time for your Farm News Week in Review. This week in Farm News, Minnesota poultry farmers who have suffered losses due to the highly pathogenic avian influenza are eligible for disaster loans through the Minnesota Rural Finance Authority. The RFA has appropriated $10 million to help producers replace commercial poultry flocks or game flocks, making building improvements and cover the loss of revenue. The RFA will begin accepting applications immediately. The RFA Disaster Loan Program is available to farmers through their existing agricultural lenders. The current loan interest rate is 0% for up to a period of 10 years. For more information, contact the RFA at 651-201-6004, and over $209 million has already been invested in over 2,800 participations by the RFA in the programs. The United States will seek World Trade Organization arbitration over Canada's request for retaliation stemming from a country of origin labeling dispute, according to the Canadian government. Canada is seeking retaliatory tariffs worth about $2.6 billion US dollars, more than $3 billion in Canadian dollars, for economic damages brought about by the mandatory COOL. Last month, the WTO upheld its previous ruling that requiring born, raised, and slaughtered information on meat labels and requiring segregation of live cattle from Canada and Mexico accorded unfavorable treatment to the country's respective livestock. The ruling was the fourth such decision against the U.S., clearing the way for tariffs from Canada and Mexico. A meeting was scheduled for Wednesday to allow the WTO to approve retaliatory figures from the two countries, but since the U.S. decided to seek arbitration, that hearing turned into a matter of notification that the WTO can't take action on Canada's retaliation request until the arbitration process is completed. Last week, the House passed a bill to repeal the beef, pork, and poultry COOL labeling requirements in a bipartisan 300 to 131 vote. Earlier this week, the House was set to break an impasse over the fast-track trade bill after GOP congressional leaders reached an agreement to separately enact an extension of trade adjustment assistance programs. The plan involves splitting a bill that includes both the TAA extension and the fast-track trade promotion authority that President Obama needs to complete new trade agreements. The House voted on Thursday on the TPA and then left the TAA to be handled separately in other legislation. The trade bill bogged down on Friday when the House voted 126 to 302 to defeat the TAA section of a Senate-passed trade bill, but approved the TPA part 219 to 211. Authorization for TAA programs expires on September 30th. Under a GOP plan approved by the House Rules Committee on Wednesday, TPA is being folded into an unrelated Public Employment Retirement Bill, H.R. 2146, that had passed the House earlier on a near-unanimous vote. Inserting the TPA into a bill will force Democrats who oppose the fast-track measures to vote against a measure that has benefits for firefighters, air traffic controllers, and law enforcement officers by allowing them to make penalty-free withdrawals after age 50. TPA sets negotiating goals for trade agreements and sets up a process for considering the finished deals in Congress that ensure that lawmakers can't amend them. In honor of June Dairy Month, Minnesota Agriculture Commissioner Dave Fredrickson on Monday released the annual list of top Minnesota dairy herds with low somatic cell counts. Somatic cell counts is a key indicator of milk quality. A lower SCC count is better for cheese production and longer shelf life. This year, 111 dairy farms are being recognized for superior herd management skills by achieving an average under 100,000 SCC. For more than a decade, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture and the University of Minnesota dairy experts have been working with the state's dairy farmers to lower somatic cell counts. When the initiative began in 2003, the 100 herds honored that year included those with SCC averages as high as 144,000, compared to the goal of obtaining an SCC under 100,000. Although somatic cells occur naturally and are not a food safety concern, dairy farmers monitor them because processors will pay a premium for milk with low counts. A farmer whose herd has a very low count can receive significantly more per hundredweight compared to a farmer whose herd average is high. The farmers who made the list received a certificate of congratulations signed by Commissioner Fredrickson. A full list of those honored can be found on the Minnesota Department of Agriculture's website. And that concludes this week's Local Farm News Week in Review. This is Farm Director Scott Colomb saying, thanks for listening.